Since the start of tensions between the United States and Iran, the Strait of Hormuz has been one of the biggest pressure points between both sides. On one hand, you have Iran trying to use whatever leverage it has, and one of the biggest pieces of leverage it controls is the Strait of Hormuz. If that route is disrupted, it doesn't just affect one country, it affects the entire global oil supply. On the other hand, you have Donald Trump, who seems like he's just going back and forth. One moment he's downplaying it, acting like he no longer cares about the strait because NATO and other US allies have refused to take action and join in the fight.
We're in great shape for the future. The United States imports almost no oil through the Hormuz Strait and won't be taking any in the future. We don't need it. We haven't needed it and we don't need it.
But then the next moment he's issuing strong warnings and threatening to destroy everything. So why is the Strait of Hormuz so important, and what will be the consequences of it being closed? America produces its own oil. In fact, America is a net exporter of oil. But being a net exporter doesn't mean the US doesn't import oil. It just means it exports more than it imports overall. So oil is constantly moving in and out of the country. But the main problem is that not all oil is the same. There are different types of oil: light oil, heavy oil, sweet, sour. The US mostly produces light sweet crude, but many of its refineries were built to process heavier crude. So even though the US has oil, it doesn't always have the right type of oil for its own system. That's why the US exports the oil it produces efficiently and imports the oil its refineries actually need, which is why the US cannot be isolated from the rest of the world. Now bring in the Strait of Hormuz. Around 20 to 30% of global oil, especially from the Middle East, passes through that route. So if that route is disrupted, it's not just that less oil is available, it's that the specific type of oil certain systems rely on becomes harder to get. At the same time, there's another layer. Oil is traded globally. Countries all over the world are competing for the same supply. So if supply drops, countries start offering higher prices to secure what is left, which means even inside the US, prices would go up because the rest of the world is competing for the same oil. So the US is dealing with two problems at once: rising global prices and a mismatch between the oil it produces and the oil it actually needs. And this doesn't just affect fuel, it affects transportation, manufacturing, food distribution, everything that depends on energy. So when supply is disrupted at that scale, the effects spread across the entire economy. And this is where Trump's behavior somewhat starts to make sense, because once the strait is threatened, this is no longer just about oil. It's about keeping the entire system from breaking down. So you might be wondering, why not just use force? Why not just go in guns blazing and open the strait? Because it's not that simple. Iran doesn't need to completely take over the strait to shut it down. It just needs to make it too dangerous for ships to pass. And there are multiple ways they can do this. One of the biggest threats is naval mines. These are explosives placed in the water, sometimes floating, sometimes attached to the seabed, and it's designed to damage or completely destroy ships that pass through. And the thing is, you don't need thousands of them. Just a few in the right location is enough to create fear to discourage ships from passing through. Now add that to the missile threats from the coastline, fast attack boats, drones, and suddenly the Strait of Hormuz becomes a high-risk zone. Even if the US decides to step in to secure the area, clearing a mined waterway is slow and requires extremely precise work. You have to detect each mine, identify it, safely neutralize or detonate it, and you have to do this across a large, busy shipping route. And all of this has to happen while there's still a threat of more mines being deployed or attacks happening at the same time. So even in the best case scenario, this process can take weeks to months, which means oil shipments will be delayed, supply stays tight, prices remain elevated, and the global economy continues to take pressure. So even if military force works eventually, the damage is already done, or the damage would have been done by then. So now compare the two options: negotiate, apply pressure, and try to reopen the strait without escalation, or use force, trigger a conflict, and deal with months of disruption while trying to fix it. So Trump is basically taking his time, trying to apply pressure, making sure they understand the consequences of more or less forcing the US to have to use military force to get the Strait of Hormuz open. The rest of the world is going to suffer for a while, but Iran will suffer way more. It's not like Trump, doesn't know what he's doing. It's leverage. And that's why Trump's actions look inconsistent. Strong threats followed by hesitation, pressure followed by negotiation, because Trump is trying to get the strait open and keep the system functioning at the same time, while Iran is trying to use that as a bargaining chip. Also, support for the war has been waning both on the left and on the right. So if anything causes the cost of living to go up for the average American citizen, Trump might fall out of favor with the entire population. So he's trying to balance the whole thing as best as he can. The Strait of Hormuz is too important to ignore, but forcing control over it comes with its own risks, and that is why the decision is never simple.